Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, the 2025 PGA Tour season has finally begun. Yes, I know there's kind of the weird wraparound fall swing that's kind of 2024, but kind of 2025. But I consider the start of the season when one and dones start, which is this week, which is the Sony Open. So what we're going to do here on this podcast today is we're going to break down the Sony Open from all angles. We're going to look at the course itself. We're going to take a look at the board and see if we can identify some guys who are going to make good plays in DFS, good outright bets to win or placement bets. And then we're going to take a look at one and done strategy as well. And we're going to do it all in 30 minutes or less. So that way, no matter what your angle is for playing fantasy golf, whether it's DFS betting, one and done, props, whatever, we've got you covered here in this episode. And we're hopefully going to give you guys some information that can help you win here in this first real week of the PGA Tour season. Now, we are going to be here for the entirety of the PGA Tour season. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. So that way you can be with us for that, as well as all of our college football content through the rest of college football season, which is only 2 more rounds of the college football playoff, as well as all of our college basketball content, which is going to be coming back on almost a daily basis starting next week. But anyway, I kind of put myself on the clock there, 30 minutes or less, and we're a minute and 20 in. So let's go ahead and start and dive into the Sony Open, and let's talk about the course, YLI Country Club. All right, so YLI Country Club is the host venue. In my opinion. It is one of the shorter courses on the PGA Tour schedule. It measures out at about 7,050 yards. It's really, if you're really just looking for one key feature of YLI, it is going to be the fact that it is a short golf course. Now, agronomically, I think is the right way to say that, the grass surfaces are very much like what you would see in the southeastern United States. I have actually had the privilege of playing golf on the island of Oahu. It was not at YLI. YLI is like in like a super nice, like isolated area on the island. It was at another golf course, but you see the visuals like of all the palm trees and the beach and the water and all that, and you feel like you're in Hawaii. But then you look down at the grass and it's just like you're in the southeastern United States. Like, honestly, I was right at home being someone who's from North Carolina playing golf in Hawaii because I'm used to Bermuda grass fairways, Bermuda grass rough, and Bermuda grass greens, which is what you're going to see here at YLI. The only difference is when you see these courses in the southeast, generally speaking, in the winter and spring, they are overseeded with some sort of grass so that way they can grow. You don't have to do that in Hawaii. The tropical climate allows the Bermuda grass to not go dormant and to stay active the entire year round. I'm no agronomy expert, but I feel like I did a pretty good job at that. Basically, in summary, this is going to play like a very short golf course in the southeastern United States, even though it is in Hawaii. What you're going to see this week, with it being a par 70, there's going to be a big emphasis on par 4s, with there being 14 of them. There's only 2 par 5s, which are both going to be reachable for the entire field. You're going to need to score on those par 5s. And all the par 4s are really short. They're like really, for the most part, in between 400 and 450 yards, which means that if you go driver off the tee, you're going to be leaving yourself a wedge or a short iron into the green, which is what the name of the game is going to be this week, is really, can you dial in your approach shots from a wedge or a short iron distance and score, because that's what you're going to have to do this week. This generally plays as a fairly easy golf course. There is one variable with that, though: the wind. The wind could absolutely change things this week. As of right now, it's looking like it's going to be a fairly windy week, like nothing too extreme, but that kind of can make this golf course play a little bit tougher. It can make it harder to find the fairway, which, by the way, you're going to want to do because this is a very tree-lined golf course. And if guys aren't going to be finding the fairway, they're not going to be hitting greens. That's going to mean that short game is going to play more of a part of it. That's going to mean that scoring is going to be a little bit lower. In terms of the greens themselves, they generally run about an average speed. They're not too fast, not too slow. They are larger than normal. The architect of this course is Seth Rayner. He does not have any other designs that are regularly played on the PGA Tour, but you're pretty much like, you can kind of comp this to a lot of Pete Dye courses like TPC Sawgrass, like Harbor Town. It really, really kind of feels like that with the amount of dog legs that there are, with, kind of the short positional nature of the golf course. Now, one thing that's interesting last year is that you saw guys at the top of the leaderboard, Grayson Murray, rest in peace, Ben An, and Keegan Bradley, who are great total drivers of the golf ball, guys who are not only long off the tee, but also accurate as well. So there can really be an advantage if you are willing to pull driver into these narrow holes, into the wind, knowing that there's a pretty big penalty if you miss the fairway, and you're able to dial in that driver and hit it both long and straight. There is an advantage to be gained because you're going to give yourself really easy approach shots into the greens, which is going to allow you to get closer to the hole, which is going to allow you to make more birdie putts. So I don't think that this is just like a pure like approach and putting week. I think this is a week where you really do want to look at off the tee play. I do think you want to look at approach play as well. And then always when in an easy tournament, you got to look at putting. But like I said, I really feel like this is a week where the entire bag is going to be tested and guys are going to be able to score this week. All right, now looking at the key stats, we do this for every PGA Tour golf tournament. The key stats at YLI, we're going to look at strokes gained approach. That is the #1 correlated stat to winning any PGA Tour golf tournament. We're going to look at good drives gained and GIR gained. Basically, are you putting yourself in the fairway or position hit the green? Are you hitting the green more than the rest of the field? Strokes gained putting on Bermuda. We are going to look at, as we mentioned, these are Bermuda grass greens, and then course history is very, very important this week. This is one of the most repeatable courses year after year in terms of course history. In terms of the comp courses, I think the #1 is Colonial. We mentioned it already. It's another short par 70. It is not a Pete Dye track, but it can play firm and fast. It is tree lined, and it is one of the more difficult courses on the PGA Tour year in and year out, even though it is a short par 70. It is another course where you can have a big advantage by swinging driver, and you've seen a lot of guys have success at both the courses. Sedgefield Country Club is another one, another short par 70. And then you kind of get in your Pete Dye, like other short courses, TBC Sawgrass, Harbor Town, and then Port Royal, the host of the Bermuda Championship, as well, is the last of my comp courses. All right, that does it for the course itself. Let's go ahead and take a look at some data and see if we can identify some guys. All right, so to dive in the data, we're going to take a dive down the rabbit hole. And now I'm not meaning an actual literal rabbit hole. I'm talking about the tool from BetSperts Golf called the rabbit hole, which really allows you to set a lot of custom filters and settings and conditions in order to really kind of get like the best data possible for every PGA Tour tournament and really kind of isolate certain micro skills that you want to look for in terms of what the golfers are going to be bringing to the table for a given week. And I'm very happy to have one-upped my subscription with them for another year. And I highly recommend it to anybody if you were looking to make custom models, or if you were just looking to kind of dive more into the data of any golf tournament. I just think it's the best around. It's the best I've used. So here's what we're going to look at. I went ahead and made a full custom model. We're going to go over kind of what went into that model and just kind of isolate the skills and talk about the guys who are at the top of the board for each of them. So the first thing I looked at was strokes gained approach for the entire calendar year 2024. Top 5 in that category: Hoagie, Connors, Glover, Gim, Kitayama. Not really a surprise in any of those names. Those are all guys that I would consider as being good approach players. Then I wanted to look at total driving for the year 2024. Now keep in mind, total driving takes into account distance and accuracy. Isaiah Salinda was #1. He did not have a very large sample size, though. Luke Clanton, Max McGreevy, Tom Whiting, and Matt McCarty rounded out the top 5. With that being a small sample size, let's go and take a look at the rest of the top 10. It is Chris Kirk, Corey Connors, Harry Higgs, Austin Eckrow, and Keegan Bradley. And when you look at those numbers, the only guys that were in the top 25 for both categories: Luke Clanton, Corey Connors, Austin Eckrow, Keegan Bradley, as well as Siwoo Kim and Sepp Straka. All right, now I did want to look at also strokes gained total in windy conditions, just in case the wind does pick up a little bit here this week. Top 5 in that category: Henley, Horschel, Bradley, Meissner, and Kyung-Hoon Lee. I also wanted to look at strokes gained total on just easy golf courses, just in case this does turn into a little bit more of a birdie fest this week. Top 10 in that category: Poston, Kim, Cole, Thompson, and Griffin as your top 5. Strokes gained total. And then I wanted to look at short golf courses, for strokes gained total for short golf courses, because this one is a quite short golf course. And the best player in the field at that is Eric Cole, followed by Russell Henley, Denny McCarthy, Brian Harmon, and Corey Connors as your top 5. I then wanted to look at strokes gained putting on Bermuda grass only. The best Bermuda grass putter in the field is Taylor Montgomery, followed by Ben Griffin, Andrew Putnam, Chris Gotterup, and Harris English. I then wanted to look at just course history for YLI only. And the best player in the field throughout his entire career at YLI is Matt Kuchar. He does own a win here. Corey Connors is second, followed by Webb Simpson, Daniel Berger, and Chris Kirk. And then last thing I wanted to look at was all of the comp courses thrown into a blender and look at that as well. Brian Harmon, Webb Simpson, Matt Kuchar, Russell Henley, and Hideki Matsuyama as the top 5. Now, when you throw all of that into the model, my #1 golfer for this week is Russell Henley. And that doesn't really come as a big shock to me. Like, he's a guy that really plays well in the southeastern United States. He is a guy that traditionally plays very well at YLI as well. In fact, I would say that he's probably like the prototypical type of golfer that you would look for. He's not super long off the tee, but he is accurate. He is pretty good as a Bermuda putter. And his history at this event kind of speaks for itself. Like, I really was not shocked to see Henley pop up as my number one golfer. And you just look at the last 4 years, he's came in 11th, 2nd, 32nd, and 4th here at this event. Like, really, this just seems tailor-made for Russell Henley. And I really am going to feel pretty confident in rolling him out in pretty much every format this week. Brian Harman is second. That's another one that I kind of was a little bit surprised to see him pop up all the way to the top. He's kind of been a little bit quiet recently. Hasn't really done like a whole lot in his recent starts, but it hasn't been bad either. He was quite bad at the Century though, but I don't think the Century is a really particularly good spot for him at all. So I wasn't super shocked to see that be quite poor. When you look at just this event for Brian Harman, it gets much better. 18th, 32nd, 48th, 56th, 32nd in his last 5 appearances here. So it's never been like super good, but it's never been super bad either. So I don't know. I was kind of surprised to see him pop up at the very top of the list. But then when you think about all the micro skills that go into it, he's a pretty good approach player. He's pretty good at short courses, pretty good at easy courses. Not entirely shocking to see him pop up second. Ben Griffin is third. Corey Connors is fourth. Keegan Bradley fifth. Chris Cole sixth. Chris Kirk sixth. Eric Cole seventh. JT Poston eighth. Siwoo Kim ninth. And Austin Eckroat 10th. So that is what we're looking at from the model. Now, this is just my first run through the model. I'm going to be making more and more versions of this. If you want to see who makes the top 10 of my final model, I do write an article every single Wednesday for my Patreon where I profile my core plays as well as the top 10 from my model every week. So if you're interested in that, sign on up, patreon.com/MikesMoneyPicks. I'm also in the Fantasy Corner Discord. The link is in the description on YouTube as well as on audio to the Fantasy Corner Discord, which is a community of people who talk DFS, is primary DFS oriented for all sports, including golf. But I'm talking NBA, NFL, college football, college basketball, and golf is one of them as well. So make sure you join that Discord if you're looking for a community of people to talk golf DFS with. All right, we're going to go ahead and get out of the rabbit hole. We're going to take a quick breather, and then we're going to talk about our favorite plays from all angles of the. All right, if you're watching on YouTube, the tool we are looking at is the cheat sheet from BetSperts Golf, which is included with their package for the rabbit hole. It's just kind of a good way to kind of look at like all the data for all the golfers in the field, right? So here's what I'm looking at this week. Talking about DFS first. So last week, I actually full faded Hideki Matsuyama at the Century. I thought that going into it, he is a guy that typically does not excel at Birdie Fest. He's a guy that typically does not really do all that well at no-cut events either. And I kind of thought that his win at the FedEx St. Jude was more of a flash in the pan than anything else from last fall. And I was wrong. But like, I really don't think that was having poor process. I think I was playing the guys that I thought would excel at that type of golf course. I still had a lot of really good plays. I was super overweight to the field on Colin Morikawa. And so I was able to still turn in not like a profitable week, but not like a big loss either. So really, even though I full faded the winner, last week wasn't all that bad of a week. And I'll be honest with you, I'm probably going to full fade Hideki Matsuyama again in DFS. And I think if you want to bet an outright winner to win the tournament, I think he's an okay bet, even though because he won last week, his odds are super depressed. I don't think that that's entirely a great spot, but I mean, you just look at what he does generally. He's generally a poor putter. And last week he had a really good putting week. I just don't think that that's going to be something that he's going to be super sustainable with. And I just don't really see him going back to back. So I'm probably going to be full fading Hideki and have no problem with that. Honestly, Corey Connors is a guy that I really like a lot. He showed up near the top of my model. He was fourth, I believe, at that model by the end of it. Let me double check that. Yeah, he was fourth in the model. He's just pretty good. He's a really good approach player. He's a really good total driver of the golf ball. Bermuda actually rates as his best putting surface. And he's coming in last week off of putting on Bermuda greens at the Century, and he putted really well. And his approach playing off the tee play was not that great, which normally it is. So I kind of have faith in Connors to right the ship with his long game and to kind of keep the same track going with his short game. And he has a pretty good history here at this event. Never missed the cut here, has a third place, has two 12th place finishes and an 11th. And he generally does pretty good here. Like just it generally gains in the ball striking categories. I'll hit or miss with the putter, but I really do think that this is a really good spot for Corey Connors. I think him and the guy I already talked about, Russell Henley, those are going to be the two guys that I'm going to be paying up for in DFS more than anybody else. They're not super long drivers of the golf ball, but they are accurate. Connors is coming in off a great form. Henley, we already talked about. He's got the great course history here. Connors has solid course history here. So those are going to be the two guys that I'm really going to be targeting. And honestly, I think that the rest of like everybody else on the board above 9K has some appeal to me on DraftKings. Tom Kim, you guys know if you've been here for a while that I'm a huge fan of Tom Kim, huge fan of his game. He did play this event, was the favorite in 2023 and missed the cut. I can't really explain that one away. 45th in the Century last week, not great. I don't really know what's up with that, but long term, I'm a super big believer in Tom Kim's talent. I think in DFS this week, I don't think a whole lot of people are going to play Tom Kim. I think a lot of people are going to opt for Hideki, Connors, and Henley above him. So I think if you want to play a low-owned Tom Kim in DFS, I think that's a solid spot. Then Keegan Bradley, like, there's not enough you can say about Keegan's success in his career on short par 70 golf courses, and this is a short par 70 golf course. Just at this course in the last 5 years, he has a second place finish and 2 12th place finishes. I think this is a really good spot for Keegan. I'm going to be playing him a lot in DFS as well. I think you can play him as a second guy in. If you start with either Connors or Henley, I think you can play Keegan as that second guy. Byung-Hoon An was the other guy who was the lost in the playoff last year to Grayson Murray. So he has a T2, was 12th here 2 years ago. Really good spot for Ben An. He was a guy that we were talking about, like really good total driver of the golf ball, used that to his advantage last year. And then you got Robert McIntyre, who had an interesting week at the Century. So like Robert McIntyre is traditionally one of the better putters on the PGA Tour. And heading into the final round of the Century, he was having like a terrible putting week, but he was really good on approach. That's not normally the case with McIntyre. He normally gains with the putter, normally loses on approach. You can see it on the stat sheet. So last week, he was able to right the ship with that putter in the final round and got a T15 coming from way back. I think that's a really good sign for him because he was able to play really well in the ball striking categories, gained both off the tee and gained over a stroke per round on approach. And he's going to get the putter right more often than not. So I really think that this is a good spot to buy Robert McIntyre because you're coming in on good approach and bad putting when normally he's a good putter. So I think that that's a really good buy spot for Robert McIntyre. I think he's going to be fairly lowly owned at DFS as well. And I think he's a really, really solid play. So the next guy I want to talk about is Austin Eckroat. He's going to be another one that I'm probably going to play a ton in DFS this week. I think he's a really solid bet to win the tournament outright as well. Like this is a guy who does win golf tournaments. Last year he won the Worldwide Technology Championship. He also won the Cognizant Classic last year. So like this is a guy who just has a history of winning more so than probably he's being priced at. But also when you look at this event, he's played it twice, 12th and 42nd. Great off the tee in both appearances. Great putting in 2023, not so much in 2024. But you just look at like the events that he's played, right? And Eckroat has a great history of just playing well at these very straightforward golf courses. And what do I mean by that? I mean courses where you stand at the tee box, and what you see is what you get. There's not a lot of quirkiness. There's not a lot of like nuance to it. You're just looking and seeing and firing and trying to get the ball in the hole, right? And like think about courses that fit that description. FedEx St. Jude's a great example. That 18th place in a FedEx Cup playoff event. The Wyndham Sedgefield, which was one of my comp courses, 6th. The Travelers Championship, TBC River Highlands, T27. The Memorial Tournament, he generally plays pretty well at, which is another one of those. The Cognizant Classic, pretty simple game plan there. Hey, avoid the water. Finished in, won that event last year. So like, I really think that this is a really good spot for Austin Eckroat. He is a guy that I'm going to be playing a ton on DraftKings, and I think he makes a very sensible bet to win the tournament at the price that he is currently at. Kurt Kitayama is another one. I think he might fly a little bit under the radar. Played decent at the Century last week, 29th place, and decent fall swing as well. not great history at this event. Missed cut 73rd and 24th, but he's a guy that generally plays coastal courses pretty well. He's a great total driver of the golf ball. And he also is a great wind player as well. So I don't mind Kurt Kitayama at 8,600. I think that much is going to be made of Davis Thompson and Luke Clanton this week. I think they're going to be very popular because their numbers are like really, really good. Clanton basically has like top 5 in the world talent. And it's only like a matter of if he actually realizes it or not. But he's super young, super high upside golfer. And I think Davis Thompson kind of fits that description as well. Like super young, super talented, great total driver of the golf ball. I think you're going to see a lot of people play those two guys in DFS just because they know that they're the next big thing. And they know that if these guys realize their talent, they're mispriced at 8,500 and 8,400. Next guy that I will talk about is Sepp Straka. So Sepp Straka is another guy that generally plays his best at like these shorter, more positional golf courses. He's not long off the tee, but he is pretty accurate. And he's a really good approach player. So I really think this is a pretty good spot for him. Just generally speaking, he's a guy that gains in both the ball striking categories off the tee and on approach. And that's really what you want to look for in guys that you're playing pretty much every week. He's generally a poor around the green player, but with this place having bigger greens than average, if he's just able to hit the green, you're not going to be needing around the green a whole lot. So I think that this is a pretty good spot for Straka as well. He's another guy that's going to be making some of my lineups. In the 7K range, I expect Eric Cole to be quite popular. We already mentioned he came up near the top of my model. I think he's going to be a guy that a lot of people play on DFS. He's probably going to be like the popular play in the 7K range. Let's talk about Daniel Berger, though. So Daniel Berger is another guy that, like Luke Clanton and Davis Thompson, is not priced for the talent level that he possesses. This is a guy that, in his prime before the injury was winning big time golf tournaments, right? I believe he won the Honda Classic, didn't he? I think so. I know he won at Pebble Beach when it was a pretty solid field. This is a guy who is pretty good. He's a really good approach player. He's a really good driver of the golf ball as well. He really put it all together at the RSM Classic T2 to finish the fall swing, where he gained in every category, every single category. And I think that's a pretty solid comp to this course as well. It's another short golf course with Bermuda grass throughout. I just think that this is a really good spot for Berger. And I think that if he is actually fully recovered from the injury, you're not going to get this price on him for very long. I think he's a great bet to win the event. I think he's a really, really solid bet to finish like top 10 or top 20. Two other guys that I'm going to be playing in the 7K range are Seamus Power and Andrew Putnam. When I just think of guys who play well at shorter positional golf courses, those are two guys near the top of the list. And those are two guys that I'm going to play. And they both have good finishes here. Power finished 3rd in 2022. Putnam finished 4th in 2023 and runner-up in 2019. So those are two guys that I'm going to roll out with confidence this week as well. Another guy that I do want to mention is Doug Ghim. So when you read the list of comp courses earlier and you saw that approach play was a big part of this, Doug Ghim should come to mind as a guy that should play well at this tournament. The problem is he just hasn't. He's played here 3 times, missed the cut in every single appearance, but he had a really good fall swing. He's a really good approach player. And people forget because it was a while ago, but when they were both at the University of Texas, people thought that Doug Ghim was the next big thing and not Scotty Scheffler, which seems crazy in hindsight. But this guy is really talented. I think it's only a matter of time before he does finally put it together. And I think this is the type of course that he could put it together at, even though he's shown very poor history of actually playing at this event. 2 Canadians here in the 7K range on DraftKings that I think both have the upside to win the tournament or downside to come in dead last are Adam Svensson and Nick Taylor. They're generally pretty good approach players, but when it goes bad, it goes real bad. When it goes good, it goes real good. So I don't really know what to make of either of the two of them, but I know that those are two guys that have a lot of volatility and have a lot of upside. If you're looking for value plays in DFS or really super long shots to bet, may I recommend Joe Highsmith? So Joe Highsmith is a guy that we played a lot at the end of the fall swing because basically near the end of the fall swing, he had switched putting grips and his putter was like the one big weakness that he had. And it totally flipped his game around. And he came in 6th at the Black Desert, 16th at the Shriners, 5th at the Worldwide Technology, and 11th at the RSM Classic. Now the putting regressed at the RSM Classic, but the off the tee and approach play was still there. This guy is a good ball striker. And if the putting is able to come back to where it was in the fall swing for that little stretch, then he's a guy that absolutely has the upside to win this event. Another guy that I want to mention as a value play in DFS is going to be Ben Silverman. He's another guy last year that we played at a lot of these shorter, more positional golf courses, and he is one of the best putters of the golf ball in the field, undisputedly. Now, he's a better putter generally on bent than on Bermuda, but actually, I stand corrected. According to this, he's actually a better putter on Bermuda. Who would have thought? I actually had a perception of him being better on bent. Anyway, he's a really good putter on Bermuda, and he really plays well at shorter golf courses. He's a guy who's shorter off the tee, so like his big disadvantage is negated here at this event, and I think that this is another good spot for him. And then the other value play that I will recommend with confidence is David Lipsky at 6,600. This is a guy who had a really good fall swing, ended it with a 9th and a 6th, and finished in 4th place here in 2023. So he's got that combination of coming in with good form from the fall swing and a good history here at this event. All right, we are going to take a quick breather, and then we're going to talk about one and done for the week. All right, so one and done is my personal favorite form of fantasy golf. I think it is the most accessible to beginners format for fantasy golf. Like, seriously, like invite your wife to play, invite your dad, your mom, your best friend, like anybody who remotely like knows a little bit about golf can play one and done, because all you have to do is pick one golfer per week and you get their prize money for the week at the end. However, you cannot use that golfer again for the rest of the season. We are hosting a one and done. The link is in the description on YouTube if you would like to join. It is going to be run on Fantasy Golf Championships, which is legal in most states, I believe. I know it's legal in my state. That's why I run it on there. So if you would like to play in our one and done and compete against us, feel free to do so. Just join it. It's $25. It lasts for the whole season. I'm looking to fill it when we get up to 50 spots in it. So I'm looking to fill it completely. But now we got to make a pick, right? So I'm not going to do this every week. I'm not going to show you all the goods on who I'm picking for this one and done every single week. But this is the Sony Open, right? This is not the biggest event on the schedule. This is not the strongest field on the schedule. This week is largely, I don't want to say inconsequential, but it can get you off on the right foot. The money that's going to be earned this week, you could very easily win twice this at Pebble Beach in a month. But if you want to play your one and done from ahead, which is the easiest way to play a one and done, then picking a winner this week is going to be a great move. Now, in terms of the guys who are in this field, thinking about one and done, strategizing for the future, which, by the way, we do have a full one and done document, like one and done planner that we have used on previous videos. If you want the link to that, it is in the description. So that way you can plan out who you're going to pick. In that planner, I believe I picked Russell Henley. I had to go back and double check. But you want to think about guys that you would want to use at later events. So Hideki owns wins at Riviera. He's great at TPC Sawgrass. He's great at TPC Scottsdale. He won the FedEx St. Jude last year. There's a lot of spots you might want to use Hideki at down the road. Keegan Bradley, great at TPC River Highlands, great at Colonial. I kind of think this is a pretty good spot to use Keegan Bradley. Sahith, I don't think this is a good spot for. Robert McIntyre, we already mentioned, I do think this is a good spot for him. I don't think he's going to be very popular. I think the other logical spot to use Robert McIntyre would be at the Scottish Open, where he is the defending champ. He's also Scottish, so he's got a little bit of that national pride there. So I don't think this is a bad spot to use Robert McIntyre, but you will probably want him for that event. Billy Horschel, I can't really see tabling for any other event specifically. Russell Henley is like a weak field king. What I mean by that is like he's going to play in a lot of these weak field events where he's going to be one of the favorites week in, week out. So I think that this is a good spot to use him because he fits that description this week. But I also think that you can save him for another event like the Wyndham or something like that. Same deal goes with Tom Kim and Benny On. Both of them are going to be in that situation a few times this year. I already mentioned kind of my affinity for Corey Connors and Austin Eckroat this week. I don't think that they are bad plays in one and done. Corey Connors, you might want to say for the Canadian Open. Eckroat, you might want to say for the Cognizant Classic. But both those I would have no problems with playing this week. So looking at all those options, who are we going to choose this week? Like I said, I think there is importance to starting off on the right foot. I think that there is importance in kind of making sure that you end up playing your one and done from ahead instead of behind. I like my preliminary selection of Russell Henley, but here for this one, and like I said, I'm kind of giving away the goods because this is the guy I'm going to go with in my official one and done. I am going with Keegan Bradley. I think that he's a great course fit. I think that he's playing good golf right now. He wants to have a big year in 2025 because he is the Ryder Cup captain. I think he makes a lot of sense as a one and done pick this week, and he is going to be my official one and done selection. All right, but that does it for the episode, y'all. And I think I stuck to my 30-minute time limit, which is good. Anyway, hopefully we got you guys covered, whether you are playing DFS, betting, or one and done for this week. Hopefully we gave you guys all the information that you need in order to pick some winners. Best of luck to you guys this week with whatever games you may be playing. Join our one and done. Check out the link in the description for the one and done planner if you are interested in that. But that's going to do it for this week, guys. Hopefully, you guys have a good week. If this video helped you out in any way, please hit the like button. It helps me out a ton. Make sure you're subscribed to us. That way you can be with us for the rest of the PGA Tour season. And so that way I can stick to my 30-minute time limit. We're going to go ahead and get on out of here. Best of luck to you guys this week. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this point, and I will see you guys next time.